Round one of the NFL draft is in the books. On to day two we go. Today is the day that the Chicago Bears will strike. The first round turned out to be memorable. If you tuned into my video yesterday, you know the first round went pretty much like I expected. I predicted about 6 wide receivers would go in the first. That is exactly how many that went. Twitter was getting wild when 6 went within the first 18 picks. They were overreacting like usual. I stayed calm and watched as no other wide receiver was selected the rest of the first round. Only one QB went, and there is a boatload of talented players still available as we move forward towards day two. Touching quickly on what else happened in the NFC North, the Packers once again did not select a wide receiver and instead chose 2 Georgia defenders, a linebacker and a defensive tackle. While I want to make fun of them for not getting a wide receiver, I've been talking about how deep this class is for ages, and both players the Packers got should turn out to be pretty good. The Lions and Vikings made a rare in-division trade as the Lions moved up to grab arguably the best wide receiver in the draft, Jameson Williams. Have to give the Lions a good grade for getting both Aiden Hutchinson, pick I was a big fan of, and a potential number 1 wide receiver in Williams. The Vikings, meanwhile, traded down, which should be good in this draft, but they had Kyle Hamilton on the board when they traded down, yet still ended up taking a safety later in the first and only netting about a second rounder. I'm not sure about that move, to be honest. So overall, the NFC North did improve a bit yesterday, but the Bears are ready to strike in a day with a ton of talent still on the board. So without further ado, let's get into my top 10 Bears wide receivers heading into day 2 of the NFL draft. As you can see by my list on the screen, 2 of my favorite wide receiver targets that I've been talking about all along are still on the board. George Pickens and Alec Pierce, as well as another guy I really like, Christian Watson. I think if we got any of those 3 guys, I would be thrilled. We need a big boundary wideout, and all 3 guys fit the bill and have blazing speed. On top of that, we have other wide receivers I really like as well, such as John Mechie, the magical route runner from Alabama, Sky Moore, the feisty Steve Smith-esque wideout, Jalen Tolbert, a guy who looks like a number 1 wide receiver waiting to break out. I think any of these 3 would be great fits for our number 48 pick as well, and if any of those guys fell to number 71, it would be an absolute steal. There are a multitude of other wide receivers we could look at beyond the second round as well. I think other potential options in that third round area include David Bell, Justin Ross, and Romeo Doubs, although any of those 3 could even fall to the 5th round in a class this deep. These are my top 10 wide receivers available heading into day 2, and as you guys can see, there's clearly no reason to panic yet, Bears fans. So let's go check in on the offensive line now. Now let's take a quick peek at my top 10 offensive linemen still available. We have a few guys right at the top that I love to watch. Bernard Raymond is one of the few legit starting tackle options still available. He is mean and physical in the run game and also very athletic. I believe he would fit into our scheme perfectly and would challenge Larry Borum for a starting tackle job right away. I've broke down Darian Kennard before as well, but if you missed it, I love that dude. He plays mean and with an aggression that you just love to see. He played right tackle at Kentucky, but he can move to guard and be dominant in the NFL. I think it's possible he can compete at tackle as well, or at least play there in a pinch. You see a ton of other names on here as well. Ryan and Godeke should be day 1 starters at guard in the NFL. Cam Jurgens is my second-rated center in the draft. I love his game. And then back to tackle, we have Daniel Falele. He intrigues me a ton. He is a monster, but I worry about his bend and if he can handle speed rushers in the NFL. And then we have Jamari Sellier, Dillon Parham, and Luke Fortner, another 3 guys who should compete for spots at guard early on. And then last, I get to Abraham Lucas. He's a right tackle prospect that I love, and I think he could still be there in the 3rd round. He had a very good RAS athletic score, and I think he could come in and challenge Borum for starting reps immediately as well. Now let's get to the defense. Man, what a fun night it was, setting the stage for day two. I think most of you know I prefer offense, but going into day two, there are some exciting names throughout the defensive side of the ball. Starting out with three technique defensive tackle Logan Hall. I think he fits as the ideal three tech in the mold of a Reek Armstead or DeForest Buckner. Next up, let's get to cornerback Andrew Booth from Clemson, who simply shouldn't be available. He should have went in the first, but is dealing with injuries and was not healthy during the pre-draft process, causing him to fall, which is also why David Ojabo is still available. He's a top 10 talent who tore his Achilles at the combine. Next up is Nakobe Dean, another first round quality player, a linebacker who could be a star. And then we have Travis Jones, a monster defensive tackle who could play either defensive tackle spot, but would need to slim down to ideally play the three technique. And then there's more cornerbacks all over the board with Kyler Gordon, Roger McCreary, Tariq Woolen are the next three, but tons more after that. And then there's two more potential three techniques who I don't like quite as much, but I think have some potential in DeMarvin Lil and Perrion Winfrey. Lil was seen as a top 10 pick throughout most of his career at Texas A&M, and Winfrey was also a highly touted first-round prospect at Oklahoma. There's a couple more pass rushers here that I won't get into unless we pick them, and then we got a few safeties clustered up in this range with Jaquan Brisker and Jalen Petre. The defensive talent heading into day two is staggering. If the Bears go defense, you have to see the value here. I am still rooting for a wide receiver or offensive line, especially if we can get my boy George Pickens. I still would be really happy with Alec Pierce if we could get him after the first pick. Same with Christian Watson. I love him. I just don't think he has the polish to be a first round pick like some people were suggesting. Bottom line, like I've been saying all along, there are a ton of players still available heading into day two. I will have instant reactions for each pick today with full in-depth breakdowns coming afterwards. Be excited, guys. Day two is when we strike. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit that like button for me. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate everybody for watching and listening. Until next time, which is going to be later today, guys, bear down.